business news, we're news for business people.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Ask BQ on Bloomberg Quint. I'm Pradeep Pandya.
Hi everyone, and I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza. Well, this is the show where we address all your stock queries, so you can write to us on Twitter, Facebook, or just call us on 022-4540-4141. You can also mail us at askbq@bloombergquint.com with all your financial queries, and we'll try and address as many as possible on the show. Just remember to add the AskBQ hashtag. Well, let's get in our two experts of the day then. Avinash Gorakshakar of Joindre Capital Services and Sameet Chavan of Angel Broking are here to answer all your queries. Welcome to the show, gentlemen, and good afternoon to both of you.
But before we get to the individual queries, let's have a look at the market. Sensex and Nifty both are trading with positive bias, though in a range. Nifty has seen a range of almost 50 points so far during the day. It's up around 35 points. As of now, mid-cap and small-cap are doing much better than the large-cap. So yesterday we had seen a broad-based correction in markets. Today, mid-cap and small-cap are also recovering. Real estate and metal are two sectors that are actually in the limelight. If you look at the heavyweights, RIL, Vedanta, SBI are some of the key contributors to the index so far. You also have some of the metal or related names like graphite, then Rain, JSPL that have been doing well in mid-cap space. What is not doing well though is pharma. Dr. Reddy's is down, also Torrent Pharma. Insurance stocks have corrected today, and RCom has also come under profit booking, although interestingly, JP Associates is moving up. Adani Enterprises has bounced back, and so has Fortis Healthcare. So you'll have more gainers than losers. Market breadth is extremely positive. Looks like in last 2 days we have seen some kind of a consolidation, and now stocks are once again moving up.
Well, that's right. In fact, the volatility too has cooled off in today's session, but remains to be seen whether we can sustain these gains on closing basis or not. Let's straight head towards our viewer queries. Then our first query today comes from Rohit James, who has written to us on Facebook. Rohit has 800 shares of Bank of Baroda, which he bought at a price of 175 rupees, and he's got 6-month view for this. He wants to know what should he do. I'll take this query to Sameet. Sameet, what would you advise Rohit to do? He's got a 6-month horizon. He's got 800 shares of Bank of Baroda purchased at 175.
Hi, good afternoon. Recently, we saw some kind of underperformance from the entire PSU banking basket. If we look at the Bank of Baroda's performance in the last couple of days, the stock has been gradually declining, and since last couple of weeks, it is hovering around its important support levels now. So 170, 175 seems to be a very strong support, and on the higher side, 180, 185 seems to be a very strong resistance. So we see this important trading range for Bank of Baroda at least in the days to come. If this particular stock has to gain some momentum, then first it has to surpass 180, 182 on a sustainable basis. If that happens, we could see decent up move. As of now, he can hold on. 170 seems to be a very strong support, so he can maintain his strict stop loss below 170 rupees.
Okay, so that's the call on Bank of Baroda. Next query is coming in from Vani Subramanian. She has written to us on YouTube. 1,000 shares of IL&FS Transportation bought at 78 rupees with a 2-year view. IL&FS Transportation, Avinash, do you like the stock?
Pradeep, I think the numbers for FY17 were quite a tad better compared to last year, and I think the company has also infused fresh equity, in fact, to enhance their working capital and their capital structure. I would believe that within the road building network business, ILFS Transport is a very dominant player, has a very strong parent, and I would believe that if the investor has a medium to long term view, I think the investor should definitely hold on, looking at the kind of growth opportunity in this space and the kind of fiscal benefits which would possibly come in the coming budget. Definitely this is a stock which should be held on, but take a slightly longer term view for the next say 12 to 18 months. I think one could get a better risk reward.
Okay, so hold on to ILFS Transport is the advice coming from Avinash. Let's move on. Our next query is from Joindre Pandey, who has written to us on Twitter. He has 82 shares of SKM Egg, which he bought at a price of 110 rupees. He has a 6-month view. Joindre wants to know what should he do. It's currently trading around the level of 95. Sameet, on the charts, what would you advise him?
Recently, we saw some kind of buying interest in this particular counter from the levels of 75, 80, and in a short span, this stock gave a good move towards 110. However, in last 3-4 weeks, the stock has cooled off a bit from higher levels, and it has been consolidating in a range now. So at least in the near term, 105 seems to be a very strong resistance, and lower side 85 would act as a very strong support. So he can hold on to it, keeping a strict stop loss around 85 rupees on a closing basis, because the stock has been maintaining its height of R1 formation, and this structure will get negated only below 85. So he can maintain his stop loss below 85 rupees, and once the stock surpasses higher end of 105, 108, we could see a decent up move at least towards 125, 130.
Okay, so hold on to SKMX. That's the call coming in from Sameet. Arpit Maheshwari is calling us from New Delhi. Arpit, good afternoon. What's the query?
Good afternoon, sir. Actually, I want to invest in specialty chemical sector. So I have selected two stocks, which is Bodil Chemicals and GHCL. And I have read the balance sheet of that also. It has a decent ROE and ROCE. But I don't know the insider of that, these two companies. So
You have done the research. Which one do you prefer?
yeah, I'm open to it if the expert suggests me a good long-term bet.
So Avinash is not able to take a call really. He has read up the balance sheet and will report. What's your advice now? GHCL or Bodil Chemical or something else if you like?
No, I think I would prefer Bodil Chemicals, because Bodil Chemicals definitely has a very sustained kind of business model. They are into the pigments and dyes space, and I think outsourcing, from India has increased quite significantly. So if the investor can have a slightly medium-term horizon, I think this could offer a better risk-reward compared to GHCL. In fact, in terms of operating ratios like return on equity, return on capital employed, Bodil definitely can deliver much better in FY19. So I think this could be a stock which I think one can safely invest with a medium-term horizon.
Okay, so Bodil Chemical is the stock which Avinash likes in this space, and currently the stock's trading around, it's sitting with gains of 1.5% around the levels of 165. Well, we're getting a lot of your queries on Facebook and Twitter. Let's just go across to Twitter queries first, and this one comes from Ankush Garg. He wants to invest in GVK Power. Well, with a 6-month view, he wants to know if this is the right time to invest. Avinash, what would you suggest, GVK Power at these levels?
No, I think there's a lot of action, in most of these debt-heavy companies, and we have been hearing that now these debt-heavy companies, we could see a lot of restructuring happening. So I think with that perspective, GVK Power definitely could be a good kind of opportunity, but I think clearly the investor needs to take a slightly longer-term horizon, because clearly after RCOM's debt restructuring, we have seen a lot of these kind of counters moving up quite swiftly. So I think one has to take clearly a risky bet, because if these restructuring moves do not happen, then there could be a move on the opposite side also. So I think the investor needs to take that into account. Clearly at these levels, the stock has already got elevated quite significantly. So if the investment horizon is slightly longer, one can definitely take a call here. But I would believe, one should definitely enter the stock on a correction and maybe, wait for some time before entering, as of now.
Okay, so wait for a correction. That's the call on GVK Power and Infra. The next query is from Sarush. He has bought 500 shares of Bombay Rayon at 150 with a long-term view. But what's the price now? We got some queries on this stock earlier also, because the stock started correcting and it is locked on the lower circuit almost
You know
every
what?
day.
Today is the 11th straight day of lower circuit for
So
this
if you could show
counter.
that beautiful graph that we have, maybe not now, but we can show you those 11 circuits one after the other. But no, not a good news for anybody who is holding it, including our viewer.
No, in fact, Pradeep, this is also another case of debt restructuring kind of stock. And I think, earlier this stock was listed on the specified A group and now got listed on the cash side. So I would believe that, unless we see some clear moves fructifying on the debt restructuring front, because a lot of PSU banks have got exposure here. And I think the company is not making profits at the net level. So I would believe that, if somebody wants to take a risky bet, one can hold on. But I think clearly in terms of the quality and in terms of the ramp up happening, I don't see at least the next couple of quarters anything significantly happening here. So probably something like an Arvind possibly could figure a better stock in the textile space rather than putting your stock on a stock like Bombay Rayon, where events have to unfold and then only one could see a improvement in the core operating profitability.
It's been posting losses for the last 4 financial years. Let's see if there is any sort of turnaround which comes about for Bombay Rayon or not. Our next query comes on Twitter. This one's from Nanak Hotwani. He wants to invest in Aurobindo Pharma with a long-term view. He wants to know if this is the right time to invest into this counter. Sameet, I'll come to you on the charts. Is it a good level to enter into Aurobindo?
See, if we have to pick any particular stock within the pharmaceutical space, then we would certainly go with Sun Pharma, Vocard and Cipla. They are positively poised if we look at the overall price development in the last couple of weeks and couple of months also. The stock has been maintaining its sturdy structure, be it Sun Pharma, be it Vocard. So we instead of Oro Pharma, we would rather prefer names like Sun Pharma and Vocard. So if he wants, he can buy these names at current level. He can accumulate in a staggered manner on any meaningful dip. And as far as Aurobindo Pharma is concerned, we have been witnessing some kind of underperformance in the stock. There's a support around 650, 655. If it manages to hold, we could see a decent up move. But we would avoid the Oro Pharma and we would rather pick other names like Sun Pharma and Vocard.
Okay, so you should look for Sun Pharma or Wockhardt and not Aurobindo. That's the call coming in from Sameet. Next query is from Jatin Shetty on Facebook. He has bought 33 shares of Avenue Supermarts with a long-term view. Jatin hasn't mentioned what price he has got in, but over the last 4 months, we have seen roughly a range of 11 to 1200. So assuming that he has probably bought around those levels, what's your call?
No, I think Pradeep, in Avenue Supermarts, I think one has to take a 2 to 3 year kind of view, because I think in terms of the growth opportunity for the retail business, there is ample headroom to grow, and obviously the company has shown very strong top line as well as bottom line numbers. But I think in terms of valuations, I don't think you're going to see a very significant upside based on FY18 or FY19 numbers. So I think if the investor has a 2 to 3 year call, I think just hold on. There could be good money made here, but only with a long term horizon.
Okay, so if you're holding Avenue Supermarts, you can continue to hold on for the next 2 to 3 years. The stock's doing well in today's session. It's gaining almost 2%. Our next query on Facebook comes from Vimal Kumar. He wants to invest rather in India Bulls Real Estate with a long-term view. He wants to know, should he be investing into this counter or not? Avinash, it's already run up a lot. It's had a great year, so to say, in 2017. But do you think the bull run for this counter will continue?
I think, clearly, if you look at the current price, I think most of the positives for FY18 and 19 seem to have been factored in. I would believe that, I think real estate definitely is a sector to watch out for in the current year. Hopefully, I think, the sector should buzz around, but I think stocks like Mahindra Lifespace, Oberoi Realty could possibly offer a better risk reward, to the investor. And clearly, there's a decent kind of earning story, in both these companies. So I would believe that in case the investor really wants to make a decent 20-25% gain, look at these companies, because here the balance sheets are pretty solid. There's reasonable debt on the balance sheet, and the order book visibility for both these companies is pretty good. So I would put my bet on both of these companies.
Okay, so that's the call coming in. Lalit Chaudhary has written to us on Facebook. He has bought VIP Industries at 350. The stock is now at 349. So around those levels, he wants to hold on for 2 months. Sameet, what could be the target? That is what Lalit wants to know. What's your advice?
See, if I have to project any target for this particular stock, I would first wait for a breakout to happen beyond 360, because after seeing a massive rally from the levels of 170, 180 towards 380, the stock has been consolidating in a range since last 3 weeks now. So if this particular stock has to resume its uptrend, it has to first surpass 360 with sizable volume. So if that happens, then I can see levels of 395, 400 coming in a short span. But since last couple of weeks, the stock has been consolidating, so wait for a breakout to happen. As of now, he can keep a strict stop loss somewhere around 335, which seems to be a near-term support for this stock.
Okay, so that's the view on VIP Industries. And Tarkesh Harchandan has written to us on Facebook. He's bought 100 shares of Dredgen Corp at 835. He's got a short-term view. He wants to know what he should be doing with this investment. Can we check where Dredgen Corp currently trades? 866, and he's bought at 835. So pretty much in the money, Sameet. Would you advise him to book profits at these levels?
He can hold on. Weekly, monthly charts are quite positively poised. If we look at the overall price action in last 4-5 days, this price action is supported by huge volume. So that clearly indicates that buying interest is coming in this particular stock. He can maintain his position. There's a strong support around 807, so he can maintain strict stop loss below 807 and hold on to it. Once it surpasses 880, we could see a decent up move at least towards 950, 920.
Okay. So that's the call on Dredging Corporation. Next query is coming on Facebook from Dhaval Bhayani. He has bought 150 shares of Asahi India at 210 with a long-term view. This is not a regular stock actually. Asahi India, Avinash, have you been tracking it?
In fact, Pradeep, I think this is one of the large vendors of windshield glasses to Maruti. In fact, they have a very dominant share in this market, and I think clearly in the last couple of quarters, I think some recovery has happened. I think the company has also made a conscious effort to reduce debt on the balance sheet. They enjoy a very strong technical edge in terms of Asahi Japan, also having a stake in the company. So, if an investor has got a couple of years kind of investment view, definitely hold on, because looking at the kind of growth opportunity in the overall two-wheeler space, apart from passenger cars, the commercial vehicle business, I think where Asahi is present, one could definitely hope to make a decent risk reward. I think one has to give a little time for the stock to actually perform.
Okay, so give it some more time. Avinash is bullish on Asahi class. The counter has not done too much in today's session. It trades with around levels of 367. Well, on Facebook, Rajesh Koda writes to us. He wants to invest in Nitin Spinners with a long-term view. Avinash, do you track this one?
I think clearly, here also, Navneet, the stock has run up quite significantly, and I would believe that, if the investor wants to buy in, he should actually wait for a good correction to happen. In terms of the earnings trajectory, FY18 has already got discounted, so I would prefer that if he does want to invest, I think it's better to wait for a correction and then enter.
Okay, so that's the advice. Wait for a correction before you enter. SBI Life Insurance for 3 months. That is what Renish Lakkad wants to know. He hasn't really mentioned whether he has got a position or he wants to get in, buy at current level. Sameet, would it be a good trade for 3 months, SBI Life?
See, Pradeep, this is a relatively newly listed stock, so I don't have a sufficient historical data. But considering past couple of months price action, the stock has already recovered from the levels of 650, 660 in last few weeks. 705 seems to be a near-term resistance. So if he wants to trade on this particular counter, then wait for a breakout to happen beyond 705. If that happens, then the stock can continue its rally at least towards 730, 735. In that case, the stop loss would be somewhere around 680.
Okay, so that's the call coming in on SBI Life.
Okay, let's move on. Karan Bhayana on Facebook writes to us. He's bought 750 shares of NHPC at a price of 29.8. He's got a short-term view. He wants to know what he should do. Sameet, since it is short-term, I'll come back to you. Would you advise Karan to book his profits because the stock currently trades around the mark of 32.4, or would you have higher targets here?
See, instead of booking profits, he can trail his stop loss higher around 31.5, which seems to be a near-term support level. The stock has already broken out from its near-term concession zone somewhere around 29 with sizable volumes. So looking at the price and volume activity, I would rather ask him to hold on to it by keeping a strict stop loss around 31.5. And the stock can head toward 34, 34.5. If that happens, then he can book out his profits.
Okay, so that's the call on NHPC. Rohit Kumar has written to us on Facebook, bought 500 shares of V8 Aquabag at 730 rupees with a long-term view. Should I hold or sell? 730 is the entry price, 500 shares of V8 Tech. What's your advice, Avinash?
I think here also the opportunity is quite big. I think Vatek Vabag actually operates in the water purification business. In fact, their parent Vatek Vabag actually gives strong support to them in terms of the overseas business. I think the investor needs to take a slightly longer term view here, because I think clearly projects like Clean Ganga and typically government related programs are definitely going to push the order book at least over the next say 12 to 18 months. So I think this is definitely a promising business, but I think in terms of the overall operational improvement, one would have to wait for maybe a year and a half, and probably if the investor has that kind of time frame, he should hold on.
Okay, so if you have a time horizon of a year or year and a half, Avinash advises to hold on to your investment in Vatek Vabag. Nikhil Rai on Facebook has written to us. He wants a view on Asian Paints. He wants to invest into that counter with a long-term view. Avinash, what would you advise? An expensive stock trades at almost 50 times its FY18 earnings. But the numbers have not been bad, I guess, in the past few quarters, despite of the disruptions we've seen related to demon or GST.
No, I think in the paint business, Asian Paints has always been an expensive stock, and I think clearly, despite the run-up in the crude prices, the markets are confident that they would be able to pass off these, input increases. I would believe that the GST trigger has yet got to play out, and if the investor has a slightly longer-term horizon of, say, the next couple of years, he could definitely look at buying into Asian Paints. This is definitely a company which has rewarded investors with very good dividends, with good bonus issues, and obviously the core operating profitability is bound to improve. Hopefully, we have a good monsoon this year. I think you could see a further run up in the stock price. So longer term prospects continue to be good, but keep a 2-year horizon.
Okay, that's the call coming in on Asian Paints. Vikas G. Jain has written to us on Facebook, and what he says,
interesting question.
Yeah, he has lost 5 lakh rupees in last 3 months. Now he has 6 lakhs more, Avinash, and he wants to know where should he invest. But look at the kind of stocks he wants you to advise him. Something that will move like Rain Industries or Graphite India or water base for 6 months.
No, I think 6 months is too short a period, and I think the stocks which he has mentioned, Rain Industries and Graphite, there has been
all these have gone up.
There has
I don't know how he lost his money.
No, he's asking you, you advise me stocks like these which have given good returns so that he can recover 5 lakhs.
Correct. So he has been looking at these stocks and he bought something else,
yeah,
hoping
that's a
that
good
they
point.
will also perform like these 3. He didn't buy these 3. He bought something else. He thought those will also perform like these 3. And he has lost money.
I think
what should he buy?
The advice would be that within the frontline space, something like a Tata Motors DVR, Pradeep, looks quite solid. The kind of numbers which the company posted.
Small caps, very clear.
I think small caps. I would believe that something like a specialty chemical company like say a Lasa Supergenics, which we had recommended earlier. I think this is a stock which is into the animal feed space. They make APIs for the animal feed business, and although the stock has run up, I would believe that if the investor has a 6 to 12 month horizon, one could still expect a 30-35% upside. So probably this is small cap, hardly 390-400 crores of market cap. And if you compare it with a Hester Bio, which is almost 1300 crore market cap, or a Sequent, comparables are trading at very high valuation. So obviously there could be a re-rating based on this, and the core operating profitability continues to be good.
Sameet, any of these high beta names you like, what you could advise the viewer?
Probably not at current level, and he has already lost money. So I think he should rather follow a conservative approach now. He should stick to quality names. I would rather ask him to get into names like pharmaceutical names like Wockhardt, Sun Pharma, which I've already highlighted. From the mid-cap IT space, Mindtree, Hexaware, these are positively poised. So he can, get into such kind of stocks rather than, chasing such kind of high beta names.
Okay, let's move on and take some more live queries that we are getting. Sayantan Baumig writes to us on Facebook. He wants a view on escorts from a 2 to 3 month perspective. Sameet, I'll come back to you. What sort of levels can one expect on escorts in the next 2 to 3 months?
See, looks quite good. It has already recovered quite a lot in last couple of weeks from the levels of 660, and it has reached its important resistance zone of 780 to 790. Since last couple of days, we are seeing some kind of subdued movement. Once the stock surpasses its hurdle of 790, you could see a decent up move. You could see resumption of its higher degree uptrend at least towards 825, 830. So if he has bought this particular stock, he can maintain his position by keeping a strict stop loss somewhere around 758 on a closing basis.
Okay, that's the call on escorts. Astron Paper is the next stock that Vishnu Pillai is tracking. He hasn't really mentioned, Avinash, whether he has bought or no, but there was a bumper IPO, good listing, stuck at the higher circuit level. This is fourth or fifth day, fourth day, I guess.
I think, Pradeep, the company definitely is a good company, has been doing pretty well. But whenever you buy a stock in a circuit, I think clearly there is a kind of a lurking risk that, this circuit could possibly come off on the other side. So I would believe that...
so mispriced that there was 250 times subscription and even after a good listing, the stock is still hitting upper circuits.
See, I think, Pradeep, in terms of the paper stocks, there's been a mad frenzy for most of these stocks. So possibly, the markets are looking at it as a kind of a opportunity within the paper space. So clearly, I would believe that, please don't buy stocks in a circuit, because clearly this is definitely not the right investment strategy. Whenever you buy a stock in circuit, there is a possibility the stock could actually come off. So wait for a correction, and I think always buy something which has got an intrinsic value and which is yet to be discovered. So probably, better stocks could be entered rather than...
So any alternative in this industry?
Yeah.
Any alternative stock to buy among the paper in this sector?
I think clearly something like a JK Paper, which is a very well established player. I think 130, 135 is not a bad price. And here I think, in terms of the cost and in terms of their premium market strategy, they are much larger players than Astron Paper. And probably, one could get a 15-20% upside comfortably here, because earnings for FY19 look to be also well positioned, looking at the increase in paper prices.
Okay, that's the view on the paper sector. Astron Paper continues to be locked in upper circuit. Remember, that's a recent listing. We're just going to take the last question for the day from Akshat Maheshwari. He wants a long-term view on Akzo Nobel. Avinash, what would you advise him?
Yeah, I think Akzo Nobel is also in the paint business, earlier known as ICI. I would believe that, if the investor has a couple of years kind of time horizon, he should definitely look at buying this. Not only are the dividends, but the core operating performance is quite good. But overall, I think looking at the MNC strategy, I think this company could definitely reward shareholders in the long term. So definitely a good portfolio pick.
Okay, so that's a good portfolio pick. Akzo Nobel in last 12 months has given you 28% returns, but it has been a bit weak in the last 3 to 6 months. Well, on that note, we like to thank both our guests. Thank you very much, Avinash and Sameet, for helping our viewers with their queries. Well, that's all that we have on this edition of Ask BQ.
But remember, we are just a tweet, post or a call away, so keep your queries coming and we promise to address all of them through our shows. You can also log on to BloombergQuint.com, search for #AskBQ and get answers to all the queries that were discussed on the show. Power Lunch is up next. Keep watching Bloomberg Quint Live.
Are we live?